Hi, this is video number 397. The weather here is snowy. It was snowing harder earlier. Now it's not snowing as much. Eli bus duty this morning. It was snowing pretty hard. We thought maybe they would cancel school. They didn't, so we got him on the bus. And then now we're thinking maybe he's going to get out early, and his dad's supposed to pick him up, or pick him up off the bus and stay home with him the rest of the day if that happens. But it's not snowing that much now, so we may have to go over and get him actually off the bus at the end of the school day. So we're kind of in a holding pattern there. He was real good this morning. He was in the mood for like drawing and writing, so he made one of his little books. He drew one of these little books about, I forget what it was. He like writes, and then he has like little pictures too. It's pretty cool. He was good this morning. What else? He had this kit where you make you can actually make markers. I don't know why you would make markers and not just buy them, but it has like bottles of fluid, and you can mix them to make different colors and plastic things and different sorts of like the thing that goes inside a marker, like a spongy kind of thing that the stuff, it saturates it and then it comes out the tip. And so he wanted to do that. I had no idea how to do it, but he apparently had done a couple before, so he got it out and he knew what he was doing and he did it. So that was pretty cool. He's getting to be, I keep thinking I need to go with him step by step through different kinds of things, but he's learning a lot of stuff. He's actually capable of doing quite a few things himself now, which is cool. That's good. Walked over earlier to get the newspaper. Always get the newspaper on Tuesday, and I like to get my exercise in, so I thought, well, I'll walk over to the Giant and get the newspaper. So I walked over. It's about maybe an inch of snow on the ground. On the way back, I was walking on a sidewalk that's along a main road. It's 2 lanes, and the lane that's closest to the sidewalk is that's the one that comes into our development. So anyway, there was a lot of slush and water in it, and I'm walking along there, and I think he was a young guy actually. I think I've seen him before. His hot car, it was black. He comes flying and just like drenched me with like slush and water and that. And I watched him as he went up the street there and turned right into our development. I blessed him the whole way there, so I didn't appreciate that at all. That was, but I blessed him really good. So I got an email a little bit ago. I found this quite funny actually. And it's from, I'm the treasurer. I keep the bookkeeping records on my own personal computer. I have like the software and all of the other stuff that I need to do the job on my personal computer. And I had told him, he was asking me questions the other day, and I had told him like I would prefer to have it on a laptop that actually is owned by the church, and he agreed with that. So he sent me an email just a little bit ago. It says, Don, should have a notebook computer for you in the next week or so. Really prefer keeping the church stuff separate and having an easy way to move it to another person if you were to be unable to do the job. And then in parentheses, death, of course. And we always joke about that. Like if you're the church treasurer, the only way you can get out of it is if you die. You can't just resign. We've gotten a lot of laughs over that. You can't almost die. You have to actually, in fact, be dead. Because I had been treasurer for 7 years, and then I went into like the whole withdrawal thing when I quit drinking, and I actually had to quit because I was incapable of doing the job. And in fact, I think the next week I ended up in the psych ward anyway. But and I was like suicidal and all that. You can't almost die; you have to actually die. So it's always been a joke, and it's I think it's probably true. I probably will be doing this until I'm not here anymore. Anyway. Something else. This doesn't happen very often, but occasionally it does. There is someone right now that sometimes somebody will message me or email me, and they will ask for my help. And this particular individual, I spent like a number of hours actually with her, going back and forth. She's really sick. She's in withdrawal, different kinds of things, and like I would make suggestions, like very basic things, like acceptance is a key to this. You have to accept where you are, and then like kind of make up some sort of plan and go forward. And it's like a one day at a time proposition. And so she basically told me like, well, you weren't as sick as I am. And that doesn't fly very well with me. So the first time I overlooked it. And then she messaged me back later, like, we're going back and forth with different things. And I tried to make that suggestion or some other basic suggestion, again, like some common sense stuff. And basically the same thing. You weren't as sick as I am. And so when someone does that to me, how am I supposed to relate to this? How am I supposed to help a person like that? Technically what they're saying is you're not qualified to help me because you didn't go through what I'm going through, which, I mean, you can argue about that. And I don't take it personally, believe me, I don't, but it's more a matter of, I can't help this person. They have just disqualified me. They don't yet. They will come back and start messaging me again. And then they like, well, why aren't you answering my emails, my messages? What did I do? And I don't respond because it's like, I will get then into some sort of an argument probably. So I just don't go there anymore because for some reason they have found it that I didn't suffer the way they did or the way they are doing or suffering. But if you think about it a little bit, just from my perspective, if it had been not very hard for me, I wouldn't be here. I would not spend all of this time. I just wouldn't. And most people wouldn't. And I think most of the people who hang around and help, they know it was a walk through hell. It was horrible. I happened to get better in just under 2 years. My whole thing was about a little bit less than 3 years. Compared to some, that's quick. Compared to others, that's a long time. So I don't know. It's just a hard thing that happens to me sometimes, and it basically disqualifies me. The person that does that is disqualifying me. They're telling me I'm not qualified to give them any advice. Well, then why are they asking me questions? I just thought I would bring that up. And there is one particular individual right now. I went back and forth with her for hours, and then like she did that to me twice, and I kind of ignored it, and then like she just keeps coming back, and it's to the point now I don't even read anything. Okay, because we'll just get into some kind of a disagreement. I really don't want to go there. Just thought I would bring that up. I don't know why exactly. Maybe I'm saying don't do that to me. I don't know. And you're not doing it to me. You're kind of doing it to yourself. I mean, she's doing this to herself. You have to accept where you are. You have to accept your level of withdrawal, like whatever it is, your level of suffering with your symptoms. And if you have to taper, and if you're on multiple medications, you have to kind of come up with a way to do it and just go forward. You can't keep reaching out for help supposedly and then like not accept the help. I don't understand that. Okay, I'm done with that. Okay, I got a few Facebook messages and emails. I don't know that I'll get to them all here, but I'll start out anyway. Let me see which one this is first. This one, yeah, okay. I got this one a few days ago. Hi, Dawn. Thanks for the videos and taking your time to help us out. I wanted to talk about something that's been bugging me for a while. The onset of my withdrawal symptoms after my last dose. I started my taper from 2 milligrams of Xanax in April of 2012 and ended in April 2013. Okay, it was 1 year. As my taper progressed closer to my last dose, I was feeling better. About 1.5 to 2 months after my last dose, that's when symptoms started to rear their ugly head. I thought there was something else wrong, as I didn't think withdrawal from benzos could stretch out like that. I wasn't in any support group during or after my taper, so I was in the dark, really. It never crossed my mind to join one. I felt alone. Anyway, I started taking herbs and supplements to combat it, and it kept revving my symptoms, so I started doing what I should not have done, rescue dosing. Okay, I rescue dosed for about 8 months after my taper and ended before ultimately stopping. Before my taper ended, and I ultimately stopped. I took approximately 10 milligrams of Xanax over an 8-month span in little doses here and there. I took my last dose in Christmas of 2013. I remember having 2 wide open windows right around 1 month off, but again, at about 1.5 to 2 months off, I got slammed with symptoms from the core of hell. My question is, why would it take so long for the symptoms to kick in? I haven't heard or read of this happening to anyone else. It is most definitely benzo withdrawal and nothing else. 95% of my symptoms are mental and very intense. Right before the 3-year mark, I had a setback that felt like cold turkey withdrawal that was triggered by either too much stress or a stupid supplement I tried but I only took half a dose of it one time. The setback was 14 months ago, and I'm still in it. I just passed the 4-year mark since my last dose, and my anxiety, agoraphobia, housebound for years now, demonic anger, and depression is still there. My food sensitivities are very intense the whole time. I'm having a very hard time believing this will end. I feel at times I'm getting better, then again I feel I'm stuck and getting used to being screwed up. God help me, this has to stop sometime. Thanks again for reaching out with guidance and encouragement. Okay, we go back to the top here first. Okay, it's not unusual. Like sometimes there are people. It's funny how like when we taper, a lot of time, like my taper was, I felt the same level of misery the whole way through. It didn't get super intense. It was basically the same level of my tolerance withdrawal. It stayed about the same. Some people, they hit what I call the wall, where that's when things get really tough on their taper, and they have to go really slowly, and symptoms really ramp up. And then there are people who, as they get closer to the end, they do start to feel better. I've seen it all 3 ways. Okay, and he's saying like that was happening, and then after he was off for a month and a half, 2 months, and then the symptoms came big time. That is not unusual, believe me. For me, it took 30 days after I jumped, and then I got nailed with the first thing was terror. I was at work. Fear just drenched over me. I'll never forget. It was a Thursday, and I never went back to work after that. I was just in absolute total fear of going back to work and doing anything really. I have known people who it's like the symptoms are, what's the word I want? They're delayed, a delayed reaction kind of. That happens. There was a guy in the very first, well, actually he was in a Facebook group, the first Facebook group I was ever in, and his symptoms were not bad when he jumped until about, it was like 4 months or something later, and they were delayed, and then he got nailed, and it took him a long time after that to get better. That's not unusual. I don't know why that is. I have no idea why that is. Okay, let me see. Okay, like taking herbs and supplements and different kinds of things. Yeah, rescue dosing, not a good idea. I understand why people do it. I remember the first forum I was in, benzowithdrawal.com. There was a guy on there. He hadn't taken benzos a long time, but he got to like so many months that he felt miserable, and he did take a rescue dose or 2, and that, you know, he did finally get well later, like months later. It did happen for him, but rescue dosing is never really a good idea. It does not set you back to the beginning of withdrawal. I don't believe that, but it's preventing at least your neuroreceptors from healing, from recuperating, recovering, whatever words you want to use. You see what else? Okay, and then like going for a long time and getting better, and then trying supplements and different sorts of things. They can. I have read it many times. People who they're pretty far out, not feeling too bad, but they do take something. It's not even a drug. It's not even a psych drug or anything, and they start getting ramped up symptoms. I've seen it many times. And I'm thinking, yeah, the onset of symptoms, like when you're so far out, when you felt like, okay, I'm getting to the end point of this, it happens, and I'm thinking it has something to do with some sort of kindling, and the kindling does not necessarily, I think, have to be from the drug anymore. It's like if my hypothesis about chemically induced PTSD is anywhere near correct, anything that might trigger something, and the brain, it remembers how it responded to being triggered before with the drug, and so now it does it even faster. It's like it's kindled. It's like it has like an internal memory somehow, and well, I did this that time, I'm going to do it again. So it does it faster, it does it more. I don't know. It's kind of like a Pavlov's dog response, where it takes a while, and then like bam, it's a natural occurrence. It's like with this, if A happens, then I do B, and then after a while, your brain kind of learns, like it does it very fast. And there's this young lady that was in postpartum depression and was drugged and this and that, and went through withdrawal, and she was getting real close. She had been off for quite some time. I think it was like between 2 and 3 years, and she decided she was going to have another baby, and she had a hard pregnancy. I don't know that she took anything during that time. I don't think she did. But the delivery was apparently hard. I don't know if there were drugs then, but after she had the baby, she had a herniated disc in her lumbar region, I think. And she had to have surgery, and then there was a lot of drugs, like for pain and so forth, over the next few months. And that did set her back. It's like it was some sort of stress, or like chemically induced stress, maybe, or stress just from that whole. I mean, that's very stressful stuff. Like you have a hard pregnancy, a hard delivery, and then like this thing happens to your back, and you got to have surgery, and there's pain. So it kind of set her back into what I think is withdrawal. And I message with her now and then. And she gets these weird physical symptoms. And they don't stay in one place for very long. They move around. And one that really, really bothers her and makes her really afraid is the popping joints. And that's not the most common symptom, but I have read of it many times. She gets those, and then she freaks out. But she's been to the doctor many times, and like, of course, the doctors don't find, I keep telling her, I think it's withdrawal. There's no doubt in my mind. And she says, well, do you really think that? And it gives her a little bit of comfort there. And it should, because I think that's what it is. And I told her, like, I help so many people where the same sort of thing happens. They're far out, they're starting to feel better. And for some reason, maybe a supplement, maybe some sort of drug, something, some stressor, that, like symptoms return. She's not all the way back into withdrawal like that, but she's got revved up symptoms. And some of them are different from when she went through this, for the first 2 to 3 years. That's hard. This is hard stuff, I know. And it seems like you get stuck. He uses the word stuck, and that this is never going to end, but it does. This happens to lots of people. It just does. I don't know why. I think it all has to do with PTSD. I honestly believe when we were in withdrawal, we were in PTSD. And then people who, I don't know a whole lot about people who have PTSD from something other than chemically induced. Because a lot of the veterans, see, it's hard, like a lot of theirs is from like war situations, battle situations, but they also get drugged. So sorting that out is probably a real nightmare. But I don't know if like somebody who's in PTSD without drugs and they kind of get better, I think there are things again that trigger. A couple months ago, I had watched a series on the Vietnam War, and this one guy who he had PTSD from the war. I don't know that he was drugged, but years later, there were certain things that would happen to him that would just absolutely freak him out, and he would kind of like drop back into PTSD. So it's I think that's kind of what this is about, and the brain remembers. I did the fight or flight response before. I got to do it again. I'll do it even faster this time. That seems to make sense to me. I don't know. Yeah, being far out and then going back into like some withdrawal, that's nasty stuff, but it happens. I don't know why. I really don't know. But you do get better. I mean, your brain just has to, get back online and keep chugging along. It's still, the rule remains the same, one day at a time. It just does. Okay, the next one is an email. Okay. Hi, Dawn. I did one of hers, I think yesterday. I just listened to 394. I got a little behind because I have walked with friends 6 out of 7 days, and I usually listen when I walk alone, one of my withdrawal routines. I look forward to hearing your discussion. Thanks for the heads up. I had emailed her and told her that I addressed her email in the last video. I'm happy to hear you may continue to make some videos. I know it's a big commitment on your end. Let me see. I'm not getting any younger perspective because we're not. But with Dr. Jen gone and Baylissa changing her model, I think it's wonderful that you will consider continuing in some truncated fashion. I don't know if you have mentioned this on any recent videos, but there is a benzo prayer group that prays for recovery for all in 2018 with the Lord's Prayer and a Hail Mary. Someone started from Benzo Buddies. People pray at 3 and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I never prayed a Hail Mary prayer, but I've listened to them before. I do think I am getting better, but I do still feel not very functional. But the terror gave way to anxiety and the creepy feeling, and that was mostly anxiety. The black depression with suicidal thinking is now moderate depression and sometimes pronounced apathy. And of course, the exhaustion and the back and feet pain continue. Okay, the exhaustion. I've been hearing a lot about like fatigue, exhaustion, people thinking they have chronic fatigue syndrome. I talked about it yesterday some. It's a very common symptom in withdrawal. It really, really is. And the pain, and her depression is getting better. That's a cool thing. That's good. Like the creepy feeling, the terror is just regular anxiety now. It does eventually let go. It really, really does. But I know it's hard when it's just hard. Okay, and Baylis changed. She changed things around somehow. I'm not quite sure how. And Dr. Jen's not online now, so there aren't many people around doing this. But and she talks about the truncated. Actually, the way I'm doing it now, at least in the last couple of days, I'll probably be doing more videos than I was doing, but I won't be answering emails much at all, like with text, other than telling you I addressed your email, your message on this video, and give you the link. I usually give the direct link to the video, so you don't have to go to the website. Okay, where are we at here? 21 minutes. Okay, Facebook message. Okay, Dawn, thanks. Can I just ask for a brief description of the one about polydrugging, SSRI 393? Maybe that one's not for me. I trigger at the mere mention now. This latest video looks just what I need. The question from this would be, do you think such distress that has actually been going on since before Christmas can set you right back? I put measures in place. However, just the thought of it all, and I haven't read most of it, made me doubt I could ever get over it. Okay, first of all, 393, I think that's the one where I think it was just one email that I talked about. It was someone's story, okay? And it was, she started out on Zoloft, took Zoloft for, it was a few years, and then somehow got put on a benzo, got off the Zoloft, and then later came back, maybe was in withdrawal, and tried to get on the Zoloft and couldn't because it had it turned on her. That's very common for Zoloft. I've read that many times. The guy who lived here, who was from New York, that happened to him. He had taken Zoloft for quite some time, stopped, and then later tried to get back on, didn't work. That happens with SSRIs for some reason. You just can't tolerate them. You immediately cannot tolerate them. So that's basically, that was the SSRI part of that, I think. Okay. Stress in your life setting you back. I think when you are in fact in withdrawal, the stress is just there. There's not part of, it seems like part of this is, I don't think it's the major part, it's the looping of symptoms, the looping of things that make you feel, that give you anxiety, and you start to fear, and it's sort of like a continuous loop in a way. And your brain does eventually rewire around that. And again, it's like a switch was turned on that made this looping start. Not just thoughts, but everything in your body it's on ultra high mode. It's just, do, think, move, mess around with all of these thoughts and the obsessions and the intrusive thoughts, and you just feel like you're going 100 miles a minute, and you can't stop. It's like a switch, and then that stresses you out. You get anxiety just from that, and you get depressed and all of that from feeling all of these sensations. And it's the fight or flight thing. It's like the switch for fight or flight went on, and it's like the brain does not know how to turn it off, so it has to rewire around that to take care of the symptoms and so forth. And I think that's what takes it so long. Okay, let me see. What I'm meaning is, if this is sort of like a nervous breakdown and we are traumatized over and over, could we just never heal? This probably makes no sense. Nothing does right now. I'm trying to find forgiveness. Not easy. Anyway, I'll listen to the video tonight. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's kind of like, a nervous breakdown. We're traumatized in a nervous breakdown, and then like things just keep playing over and over. They're looping, 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 and it's like a self-feeding loop, kind of. I think is I've talked about that before. That's how it felt to me. It's like you want to cut the loop, you want to break it so that everything can be nice and peaceful and calm and go back to normal. But it's like our brain is constantly trying to find. It's trying to find the switch. I call it a door. In my book, I talk about a door, but it's the same sort of thing. It's like you're looking for the answer, the way out, whether it's a switch or the door, whatever symbolism you want to use. I think there could be something to that when people have PTSD, the continuous looping thoughts, the fear, the anxiety. And I'm not saying that is overall the most important part of this, but that it doesn't help. It doesn't help. But when the cycle is broken, I mean, you do get calm and peaceful again. But I know what she's talking about here, and I think it does make sense. But I don't think it's the major cause of the suffering. I think it's just kind of like it's something you can't. There is no therapy that can keep you from doing that, and you can't take blame for it. I did it too. It's just one of those things. It's part and parcel of withdrawal from benzos and from other psych drugs too, I guess. Okay, let me see where I'm at here. Okay, this one. Okay, I'd done one of his emails yesterday. It says, thank you so much for responding. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that since I'm on 2.5 milligrams of Klonopin and have several failed tapers, it's so hard not to feel like healing is so far away and the suffering will be seemingly endless. This whole process is just so isolating, and without distractions, it's so hard to even face the days. I feel like I have what many people describe as acute symptoms while still on such a high dose. I know everyone is different, and I am likely intolerant and definitely have a highly sensitized nervous system. It's just so hard to remain hopeful and get through each day in this state. Okay, highly sensitized nervous system, and intolerance, definitely intolerance withdrawal, I would say. I mean, I've tried to taper a couple of times and didn't do it. Tolerance withdrawal for sure. That's what I was in after I got out of the hospital and reinstated. Okay, now when I was in the hospital the last half week to a week, and then the first 5 days or so when I got home, that was acute. That was unbelievably. I know a lot of times people say it's like I'm back in acute again. I don't know. When I think of the acute withdrawal I had at the end of my hospital stay and when I got home, when I was completely off the 4 milligrams of Klonopin they ripped from me, that was acute. That was, I have never really been able to describe how absolutely horrid that was. It was like being in another world of just plain old suffering. It was not, it affected every single aspect, every molecule of my body, I think. That was acute. When I reinstated and went through my taper, I was in tolerance withdrawal. That was miserable. That was miserable. But it was a few levels better than acute. It was miserable. Don't get me wrong. That was no picnic. And then when I was off for a month and then I got nailed with a lot of stuff, fear mostly and depression, that was worse than the tolerance withdrawal as I was tapering. But it still was not anywhere near the super acute stuff I was at when I got out of the hospital. So I think sometimes we say we're back in acute when, I don't know. Like for me, when I was off a month and I got nailed, it was bad. But if I had to compare it to the way I was when I got out of the hospital, not even close, not even close. I'm not sure how I even lived through those 5 or 6 days when I got home. It was just horrendous. But yeah, it's an isolating feeling for sure. And I know what it's like when you still got, some to taper, and you're thinking like, how many days is this going to take? And because I did it too. It was I was on 4 milligrams of Klonopin, and the lady told me, you got to get off of this stuff. It's causing all of these problems for you. And then I go online and start Googling things, and I realize if this takes 2 years, I'm done. I can't do that. And that threw me into a tailspin. It just did immediately. That's when I was in real trouble. But you get through it. I did it. I actually did it. The very thing I thought I could not possibly do, I did. And you do it. You just do it a little tiny step at a time, a piece at a time. That's all you can do. There is no other way. You can't keep looking forward. And I know it's hard to live in just the moment because the moment stinks. I know that. It's the way everybody does it, and it's hard. It's hard, but when you get to the end, it's really, really good. So I know where he's coming from, believe me, and many of you do. Many of you know what he's talking about. Okay, this one I think I got earlier this morning. Do I want to do? I'll do this one sort of quick, sort of quick. There's a lot to it. Okay, thank you, Dawn. I watched the video. I have not been well since 2015 and been off all meds for 11 months. And what's so hard for me to understand is how am I feeling worse now? I hear people talk about, okay, she has a word here, dysautonomia, like symptoms. I'm in Benzo Buddies and other places. What have you seen with this symptom? Okay, that's actually more than one. It's a whole bunch of symptoms. Also, I forgot to add the people who talk on Benzo Awareness Day and are so poorly off and not well makes it even harder that life will get better. How do we have hope that we will heal if there is so many out there who are still not well? Okay, first of all, the last part here, Benzo Awareness Day. Not everybody. I did a video for Benzo Awareness Day, but a lot of them see the point of Benzo Awareness Day is to make people aware, other people who aren't in withdrawal, there are people suffering, and so a lot of these people are still very, very sick. They are not the majority of people going through withdrawal. Okay, this is just a tiny little fraction of all of the people. Many people are much, much better. Many people have gotten through. Many people get through rapidly. These are people who have not. And the point of them doing a video is to make everyone aware. And that's the problem with this, because this is like a two-sided coin. You want to make people aware that this is an enormous problem. We need to do something about the way benzos and other psych drugs are prescribed. Yet, when you do that, it scares the living daylights out of people who are in withdrawal, because you see people who are really bad off and you think that I'm never going to be well. You think of their story and you start making their story your story. It's a two-sided coin. It's hard. That bothered me too when I was in withdrawal. And that's understandable. It's understandable. But you have to remember, like, you have your own story. It hasn't been written yet. It's going to be written. It's going to be your own personal story. It's not going to be like anybody else's story. I tried to remember that too when I was going through it. I will have my own story. I like the story of people who healed better or quicker and, didn't have as many symptoms, but I was right. I had my own story. Like, I read all those success stories, and there were ones that would say, you will have your own story when this is over. Don't hang your hat on any one of these stories, because you will have your own, and then you can add it to all of these stories when you get there. So, okay, the word she used, dysautonomia. Okay, what it is it's called autonomic dysfunctions, where your autonomic system's messed up. Okay, I'll read from Wikipedia here a little bit. It's a condition in which the autonomic nervous system does not work properly. This may affect the functioning of the heart, bladder, intestines, sweat glands, pupils, blood vessels, and all kinds of things. This particular, what's it called, autonomic dysfunction has many causes, not all of which may be classified as neuropathic. So this etiology it basically is unknown for a lot of people. You get it, but you don't know exactly what the cause was. In withdrawal, we do know. The diagnosis is typically achieved through functional testing of the autonomic nervous system, focusing on affected organ systems. Investigations may be performed to identify underlying disease processes that may have led to the development of symptoms. What that means is, and we've all done this, like, we have all of these various symptoms, and it's from our autonomic nervous system. It's the fight or flight response. That's what it is. That's it's your sympathetic nervous system. That's like half of your autonomic nervous system. That's the fight or flight thing. What we do is we go to the doctor and we think, like, we might have this, that, or the other, and they check us out and there's nothing wrong. I mean, there's something wrong. We're in withdrawal, but okay, the treatment is usually symptomatic, which is kind of like what the doctors want to do with us. You go in with various different kinds of symptoms, and they kind of like want to treat the symptom when, like, the actual cause is many, many steps up above that. You see two branches of the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system controls the more active responses, such as increasing heart rate and blood pressure. The parasympathetic slows down the heart rate and aids in digestion, for example. Okay, signs and symptoms. Okay, let me go down here. I wrote down fight or flight is like, that's the response of the sympathetic nervous system. It makes you do, act, perform, makes things go faster typically. The parasympathetic kind of goes opposite typically. It's known as the feed and breed system or the rest and digest. It kind of is, not in every way is it opposite of the sympathetic, but they kind of like balance each other out. They're supposed to. The sympathetic nervous system has to do with the ganglia that go down along your spinal cord, down your back. The parasympathetic, most of those, I guess they're ganglia, they are located where the organs are in your body, typically. And I think they emanate from certain areas in the brain and the cranial nerves and so forth. So you got these two systems there, and the one, it's the sympathetic that's causing the problem and withdrawal. Signs and symptoms, the symptoms of dysautonomia, okay, are numerous and vary widely. Here's some anhidrosis, which I think is has to do with sweat glands. You don't sweat or something like that. Anxiety, blurry or double vision, bowel incontinence, brain fog, constipation, dizziness, difficulty swallowing, exercise intolerance, chronic fatigue, insomnia, low blood pressure, orthostatic hypotension, like low blood pressure, fainting, rapid heart tachycardia, tunnel vision, urinary incontinence or urinary retention, vertigo, weakness. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So in fact, it is, what they're saying is, and what you're fearing it is actually what it is, but that does not mean it's some disease. It's actually a condition that has all of these symptoms, the ones I just read, and many more in withdrawal. That is what's happening. It's the fight or flight response kind of thing. And that's kind of like, that's where the problem is here. So it's not something to fear. I mean, that they're just giving it a name is all they're doing. That's not a big deal. You got to call it something, right? So yeah, that's, see, and she did have something else before that part of it. 11 months, that's good healing time, but it can still be early. Like, things can turn at any time. It's hard, I know. It's let's see, and the Benzo Awareness Day, they have a certain thing that they're trying to do, and it can freak people out who are in withdrawal. I know, I don't know how you get past that. Okay, where am I at here? Okay, I have one more, which I will hold for the next time. So I am at 38 minutes. So it's, yeah, the thing about, I don't want to harp on it, like people who, if I were watching me and I healed in about 2 years, from the time I jumped off the climb to, it was like 22 months. And compared to some, that was really slow, and compared to some, it's fast. And if I were sitting here, like in my 3rd or 4th year and listening to Don, I think you had Don, but you got through this, a lot sooner. And I understand that, believe me, because I probably would feel the same way. I would, but I did go through this. I mean, I look at it, the only reason I'm here and that I got through relatively quickly compared to many of you is because I am supposed to be here, okay? This is what I'm supposed to do. Otherwise, I don't know that I would have gotten through it so quickly. Maybe I don't think well, I don't know. I mean, there's no way to know. But I think, I was kind of like told, you're going to get through this so that you can help people. You can give them some hope. And I do thank the Lord that, like, it didn't go on forever and ever and ever like it does for some of you. It seemed like it was forever when I was going through it. I have read success stories of people who went through, they got well in like 4, 5, 6 months, and they said it felt like forever. And I know it feels like forever. You can go through this for a few months, it feels eternal, or you can go many, many more months, and it feels eternal. But when you get through it, when you get past it, when it's over, you look back, and I don't know, I can't speak for everyone. I know for me, I think like, well, gee, it was, I mean, yeah, it was like a couple years, 3 years altogether from the time the nastiness started. But and I don't know. I look back and it's easy for me to say because I am well. It wasn't a cakewalk. I understand that, but it has left an impression on me that there's no reason why all of you people should suffer here and not have someone come back here, and because it's hard. I know it's hard. It's just anything I can do like to help them, but when people tell me like, well, I try to like, well, you have to learn to accept this and certain kind of just very basic things. I'm not one to make suggestions. You need to do this, that you need to be strong and pull yourself up here. I will never tell you that because I didn't do that. And I basically said, there was a day when I was here at home when I said, if I get through this, I will never ever say Don was the strong guy that pulled himself out, because that's certainly not true. So it's not, you get through this, and I know, listening to me, and I'm well, and but there are certain basic things: acceptance, reaching out for hope, coming up with a plan, like kind of looking forward and saying, I got to do this. I just, it's hard, I know, but it's just a one day at a time thing. It really, really is. Whether it's 1.5 or 2 years of days, or whether it's 3 or so, it's just, that's the way it works. The healing is the same for everyone. Like, your brain is doing the same thing. I think maybe some people, the brain accidentally turn the switch back off and they get well pretty quick. I really don't know. And then some people, maybe they never actually did turn the switch off, but they're rewiring, and it's taking a long time to get around what the switch has done. Like, it's fixing like single things at a time, like to get you back to a functioning person. I don't know. That's something that like we're trying to find out. And once we can figure out that stuff, I think we'll have a good clue as to like, well, maybe this or this could be something that we could take a look at to maybe help reverse or make things better. I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting on here now. I didn't think it would take this long, but I tend to blab every now and then. It's basically just flurrying outside now, so I think he probably will have a whole day of school, and we will have to go over there and get him off the bus. Maybe we'll just stop out and eat somewhere at a restaurant. I don't know, because I don't think my wife has anything planned for dinner. So that's always nice. Go eat at a steakhouse or something. I don't know. So anyway, you're getting well. You're going to get through this. I like this format of doing emails and so forth with a video. It really is easier for me. Takes less time, even though I tend to go on and on sometimes. So anyway, hang in there. I'll be back again at some point. I have like one thing to talk about now. I'm sure other things will come up, and I'll be back, if not tomorrow, then probably Thursday or Friday or whatever. Whenever I get enough things to talk about, I'll come back. So as always, I'm right here, and I will be right here. Bye-bye.